Hi everyone, welcome to the first Tuesday Times Roundtable session for the fall of 2020, but also, shall we call it Zoom table? These are first. We're excited. Thank you so much for joining in. I know that we have more people joining as we speak, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So welcome everyone again. Today we are super excited about the session that we're having. We'll talk a little bit about that. What I wanted to say for those that don't know, the Tuesday Times Roundtable, Jenny, this is the 11th year, right, of the session. So
11th year, yeah.
Right. So we've been doing this for more than a decade. This is the first time that we're doing it fully online, so bear with us. And for those that don't know, this is sponsored by the New York Times. Usually when we have these in persons, we have free lunch. And of course, given the situation, we cannot offer that. But the idea about these roundtables is to have a conversation, right? So we bring these amazing presenters, we discuss topics, but please participate. What else? And again, like if you don't know, for being FIU student or staff, you have free access to the New York Times. If you go to our website, to Tuesday Times Roundtable, you can actually access the link. If you need to access the New York Times, I will copy that link and put it on the chat. So we have some important reminders. Please mute yourself while the speakers are talking. The TTR is recorded. We want to see you and we want you to, if you feel comfortable to be on camera, but it's not a requirement. Okay, so just join in, be as you are, as you're comfortable. We are just happy that you're here. If you have any questions because of this type of setting, please put them in the chat. And then we'll open at the end a Q&A in which you guys can talk. GL Medallion students earn 1 point for attending, but Jenny's going to talk more about that. And you can register for the next TTRs online. And we'll share that information on the chat as well.
Well, hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, although I'm looking at the list of people joining, I know a lot of you. My name is Jenny Simon. I am the program manager over at the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. I am super excited to be back. I was out on maternity leave and it's my second week back. And I'm so thrilled that as I come back, we have a panel with the collaboration of the Women's Center, because all of you who know me know how passionate I am about this topic as well. A few housekeeping items, as Florencia was mentioning. You get 1 point for attending the Tuesday Times Roundtables. Beginning this fall, every Global Learning Medallion student will need to earn at least 4 out of their 20 points from Tuesday Times. Now, I know we're still living in a pandemic. I'm not expecting every single one of the students to be able to join live, although this is a pretty neat community. If you're not able to join live, these are recorded. We post them on YouTube. You can go watch the recording, write down a reflection about what you learned, and you can submit that for points as well. Am I forgetting anything else? And I probably just highlight again what Florencia said. We love seeing your faces. You know, I'm such a person to person, like I love seeing people. I use my hands to talk, all of that, but you are not required to do so. And we respect you. And we actually appreciate if you join and you cannot show your background, that's fine. We just want you here, like joining, you can use the chat to send in your questions. And we're so excited to have so many of you with us today. This is our first time fully online. And so bear with us as we work out the technology, but so far so good. So let's get started with introducing the speakers.
I was gonna say one last thing. Follow us on Go Global at Go Global FIU on Instagram, we post not only opportunities for our program, but other opportunities. Please follow the Women's Center too. But I'll say the best way to be communicated, not only through the FIU email and all of that, but if you follow us in social media, you will see all the stuff our partners, our colleagues, and ourselves have to offer. So without further ado, welcome to the first Tuesday Times Roundtable of the semester. We are super excited. We are celebrating Women's Equality Day. This session is in honor of Women's Equality Day, and it was put together by the Women's Center at FIU. We are really, really happy to launch this series for this semester with this topic. I want to introduce our moderator, and thank you again for putting all of these together, Dr. Nashira Williams. Councilwoman Dr. Nashira Williams was a 7th grade English teacher in Houston, Texas, before getting her master's and doctorate at Florida International University, where she now works as the interim director for the Women's Center. Change has been interim, or I think director now, right? I'm not. Right, yes. So works as the director for the Women's Center. Change has been a constant in the past couple of months as Nashira was elected to her local community council, listening to issues on zoning in the community. She finished her dissertation on why collegiate Black women volunteer and worked to suppress the wanderlust that challenges to take over her life. Whether teaching in the classroom, working with nonprofits, or challenging her hopes for perfect parenthood, Nashira strives to excel with grace, humility, and a sense of humor. Welcome. Again, thank you so much for putting this together, and it's our pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I am really excited to be here as well. As both Guinea and Florencia have been saying, this is in honor of Women's Equality Day, which was last Wednesday. And so we had a lot of different things happening in the county and within the state that really gave way to understanding, really gave way to understanding the commitment that it took to get to 100 years of the right for women to vote. So that's what it's all about. But today we're going to challenge that notion a little bit, and we're going to celebrate and challenge this history while embracing some sisterhood. So we all know that when women got the right to vote, it wasn't all women. And so really understanding that commitment to continuously fight for gender equity and the rights of women is important. So we at the Women's Center, I will shout out Gabriela Lezcano and Ana Vega Ramirez, for putting together an amazing panel of women who used to be at FIU, one who still attends FIU, and they're going to talk about what they're doing currently in the community that drives gender equity and promotes the power of women. So without further ado, I'm just the moderator, so I'm going to make sure that I do that. I'm going to moderate. We're going to introduce our panel, and so I'll ask them to introduce themselves, but we do have, we do have our a bio of them as well. So Sonia Islam graduated from FIU in December of 2019 with her bachelor's in business administration. During her time at FIU, she participated in various extracurricular activities, such as being an RA, partaking in executive board positions at UN Women and her campus FIU. She's been a little bit, she was the director of her campus FIU. While in college, her passion for social issues and women's issues grew. She wanted to understand how certain societal norms and systems often place minority groups in a disadvantaged position, as well as how to go about making positive change for minority groups. Two of her good friends and her have started a podcast called Wise-ish Woman, where they delve into issues mentioned before in hopes of becoming wise-ish.
Hi guys, thank you for coming. I'm excited to be part of the panel and have this discussion with you guys.
Thank you, Sonia. Our next panelist is Janelle Acevedo. Janelle is a program assistant at FIU's Women's Center. She's currently pursuing her BA in anthropology with certificates in public policy and women and gender studies, and will graduate spring of 2021. Additionally, she's a board member for the Panthers Community Action Board, Through these roles, she's able to bring attention to social issues and amplify the voices of women and vulnerable populations. Some of her notable involvements are the 2019 Millennial Fellowship, the Campus Life Inaugural Cohort of Women in Politics and Policy, and Community Fellowship with Senator Annette Taddeo. This fall semester, she'll be a virtual student federal service intern working to conduct research on minority women and their struggles during natural disasters, such as flooding for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. Excuse me, Mecca Abraham graduated from Florida International University with a Bachelor's of Arts in Economics and a certificate in Market Research in December of 2019. She currently works at Baptist Health South Florida as a sourcing and contract analyst. While at FIU, she was involved in Women Who Lead, peer mentor. I was her advisor during alternative breaks, as well as other activities. She hopes to develop a life where she can inspire people, especially women and children, to pursue a life filled with mental wellness and professional prosperity.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Mecca, thank you. And so Madison McNally was born and raised in Florida. Having graduated from Florida International University, her precision degree in political science and international relations stemmed from her passion for women's issues. There, she was able to combine both interests for social awareness and artistic development. Through organizing events, she became exposed to South Florida's thriving art and music scene while fundraising for socially oriented organizations. Madison also interned with Miami Workers Center, where she learned about issues such as affordable housing, domestic workers' rights, and sexual health education. She currently works as a community outreach coordinator at Lotus House Women's Shelter. Here, she has found a love for social media marketing.
Hey everybody, I'm so happy, like for real, to be here. So I'm ready to get started.
Awesome. So, excuse me, Janelle is still trying to get on the call, so hopefully she will join us. But as we start our conversation, I gave everyone a bio, or everyone's bio, but I'd really like for us to talk about what you do now and how FIU has prepared you for that journey.
Any one of you can start.
Yeah, who would love to start, Mecca?
I guess I've been nominated. So again, my name is Mecca Abraham. I currently work at Baptist Health South Florida. Ironically, I started right before the pandemic really took place. I was only in the office for maybe a week before we went remote. And what I do there is I'm a sourcing and contract analyst. So I help with pricing, negotiating with vendors to make sure we have all our PPE, as well as like other equipment. Healthcare is a lot of moving parts, and I will say FIU really helped me. FIU provides such a diverse experience. There's so many ways to get involved and so many experiences that help you. I know all of my experience helped me develop kind of like a unique and almost above my years professionalism that has helped me in the workplace tremendously. From internships that I had while at FIU that helped me to get the position that I have now. I really am a paws up panther, if you will.
That's great.
Do you want to go next, Madison?
Yeah, let's go for it. So what's up, guys? I'm Madison McNally, and I graduated from FIU, double majored in political science and international relations last April. And I definitely know for sure FIU gave me a sense of pride in my community. Like I said, I'm born and raised in South Florida, but I think for me coming into college, if we're speaking honestly, I was pretty directionless. I didn't know where I was going. I was pretty overwhelmed with how many options I was presented. And so I originally went to FGCU. I was like, I need to get out of Naples. So I came over to Miami. And it made me really fall in love, like I said, with my community. And I discovered we have an amazing art and music scene here, and I took a lot of pride in that. And I discovered Lotus House. And, a lot of people trash on Miami as this crazy party city, but here we have the third largest women's shelter in the country. And where I work at now, I'm a community outreach coordinator. So basically I handle solicitation of donations, fundraising, and my favorite part is being a photographer here, taking pictures for our social media and learning more about social media marketing. So that's me.
Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Sonia Islam. I graduated from FIU December of 2019. I kind of took a half of a year of a gap. I didn't take a full year. I did a half because I got tired and I needed something to do, and the pandemic happened, so there wasn't much traveling or anything like that. But currently I'm studying for the LSATs. I'm planning on taking it in November. When it comes to FIU, coming in, I didn't think it would give me that many opportunities that it has. It was such a big school, very diverse, but in that same token, that's the beauty of FIU. You meet so many different people that have so many different opportunities and experience. Joining different clubs was really exciting because, yeah, you'll join some clubs that you didn't really feel like was you, but you kind of figure out your passion through like going to different club meetings, and from there you get internships, you get to meet new people. So like Mecca said, like, wow, golden, like a panther till the day I die, because I never thought FIU would give me all these opportunities that it did.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. You know, that question is really helpful for those who have just started maybe their freshman semester or their senior semester, and they're really trying to see how things can pull together. So I love the community approach that Madison brought in, and Sonia and Mecca talking about the on-campus opportunities and understanding that if you are trying to figure out the direction that you would like to go, there's always opportunities at FIU to find and foster those. And so we'll pivot just a little bit. As we mentioned earlier, that Women's Equality Day was last week. And we talked about in 1920, we say that women got the right to vote, but that's not necessarily all women. I actually asked the matriarchs of my family, who was the first woman in our family to vote, and they were like, oh, I don't remember them talking about voting. So and I think it's very important that we talk about voting, and it's very important that we share those stories. So who was the first woman in your family to vote, and do you know that story and could share it with us? Sonia, if you want to start.
Mecca, do you want to go? Because you had your...
Yeah.
Okay.
Whichever.
Also, really quickly, let me just say, Janelle, I think Janelle is now online. So at some point, I'm just gonna, so she can come in and share as well. Go ahead.
Perfect.
Does Janelle want to go first?
Yeah, Janelle, you want to go?
You're muted.
So,
Well,
I think Janelle's trying to figure out the whole system,
Yeah.
and we're getting a hang of it, guys. This is Zoom, but I actually called my mom this morning to ask if she ever voted. My family's from Bangladesh, so my family originally isn't from America, but I was born here. And I asked my mom this morning, and she said that she never had the opportunity because she left Bangladesh for America by that time. So I was actually like the first woman to vote, which I took for granted. I never thought of that story or what that meant. And it's very profound. There's something very empowering about voting. And I know with my generation, there's these discussions about, does voting really matter? Does it do anything? And at the end of the day, I really do think your vote matters. It sends your opinion, your voice, and what you want to the government. And it's just, as a woman, it's very empowering because sometimes in society, a woman's voice isn't heard, and we have that opportunity in America.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Janelle. Sorry, I had a lot of technical difficulties trying to get in. So I'm an anthropology student at FIU. I'm also a program assistant at the Women's Center, and I'm the board director for the Panther Community Action Board. And so the first woman to vote in my family was my aunt. So my family came from Nicaragua as refugees around the 80s. And so my aunt was actually the first person in my entire family to vote. And so one of the things that when I was talking about her story was that she found interesting that she wasn't the oldest of all of her siblings. She wasn't, you know, a male. So a female was the actual first person to vote in my entire family, which I think is very powerful to say, you know, women always, in my opinion, find ways to kind of get creative, you know, and find ways to get it done even when they don't have an example set forth. So I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, she's a big influence in my life. And how difficult it was for someone who came as a refugee, you know, an undocumented immigrant to, you know, take the steps to get their residency. And even though money was an issue, you know, then take that further step to become a US citizen and eventually vote, you know, and help her family as well become US citizens and be able to vote as well. So that was something, you know, that really resonated with me, is not only do you uplift yourself, but uplift the others around you, and kind of share your story as well. And it was really, when I asked her who was the first person to vote in our family, she was so excited. She's like, me, I've been waiting for somebody to ask me all these years who was the first one. So it's something that she's definitely really proud about. And when I talked to her about it, she was like, I can't believe that no one's ever asked me, like, ever. So, and you know, it wasn't that long ago. It was in 2005 when she was able to, you know, get her voter registration and stuff. So like, I always thought about it as like, oh, they've been able to vote, but it's actually fairly recent. Like, I have like cousins who weren't even born yet, that are like little, and you know, and when I was born, she wasn't able to vote, and I've always just thought that, you know, she's been able to vote. So yeah, it was really, really interesting hearing that narrative from her.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go next. So similar to Janelle, how her story was that her, you know, aunt kind of took that initiative as the first person to vote as a female. My mother was actually the first to vote in my family, despite the fact that my father had been in the US much longer than her. So they both immigrated from India. My father married my mother, which allowed her to come here. And it was her initiative in 2008 that, you know, she said, you know, hey, we should vote in this election. I think this one's important. And that's kind of when they started getting involved, politically speaking, if you will. And I hate to say this, but especially I feel in the community that I come from, citizenship is very important, but we don't really emphasize the voting aspect of it, the civic duty aspect of it. So I was really proud to see that, okay, you know what, my family is taking that action. They are researching, you know, what do they care about? What are the policies that different politicians are trying to implement? And then subsequently, let's take action on that. So that kind of started the momentum for the rest of my family to do the same.
Madison?
All right. So, you know, honestly, I don't know who was the first woman in my family to vote. Growing up, though, my grandmother had always emphasized the importance of voting. She took a lot of pride in herself as a voter. And growing up, you know, I was really raised in an era where I was, you know, granted these privileges and, you know, civil rights. So I was like, what's the big deal? It's voting. Like, haven't we always been able to do that? And understanding my history a little bit better. I'm really great for her influence, but if I'm gonna take a guess, I think the first woman in my family that would have been able to vote was my grandmother from Ireland, and she came here in the 30s. And I mean, she was a phenomenal human being, everything that she experienced. So yes, that's my story.
Thank you all for sharing such personal stories. I really appreciate it. And I'm always in awe of like just how cataclysmic women can be, right? We move mountains and we make movements. And so it's really, really inspiring to hear those stories. And we've been trying to collect some of them because much like yourself, some of us, we can trace it to a grandmother and aunt, but some of us are the first women in our families to vote, at least in American elections. So it's really important that we capture those things. I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit more to the article. And so they highlighted a lot of different global disparities that still weren't reached in 2019. And it was from International Women's Day, which is in March, but just give us some grace, right? Does any of those issues strike you professionally or personally, and why did it strike you, or what did it strike the most out of you? Anyone can start as we move forward. And so, if many of you didn't read the article, it really just talks about how we haven't achieved parity in so many different ways when it comes to gender equality.
Okay. Mecca, do you wanna start, or shall I?
I feel like we're watching when we unmute and thinking, oh,
Yeah.
wait, did you want to go? Madison, please go ahead.
Also, super quick, I put the link of the article in the chat.
Thanks, Florencia.
I think for me, one of the things that really struck me, and actually Mecca and I are actually best friends. We've had this conversation before. A lot of our conversations revolve around these topics, but one of the things that surprised me the most was one of the first numbers talked about female genital mutilation. And I think it's really interesting, and it definitely showed the perspective of the author as coming from an American lens. Because I'm telling you right now, in a lot of radical feminist spaces that I've been in, they would definitely wouldn't even consider using that number. For a lot of people, and I think it's sort of like an ongoing debate now, is this topic of female genital cutting, should it even be something that we consider? Is it something that is oppressive? Is it part of someone's culture? So there's definitely a lot of nuance to the topic. I have my own opinions about it, but I just thought it was really interesting.
Thank you.
Bouncing off of what Madison says, I agree. I mean, we have talked about this topic a lot, and I just, it wasn't that specific fact that struck me the most that I have a personal connection to, but we did talk about, we have female mutilation, and then you can also talk and bring in male circumcision to that conversation.
Yes.
How does that seem, or, who do we look to say one is better or not better, acceptable versus not acceptable? So just, I guess, food for thought. I know for me personally, what really struck me was the child marriages. My family, so to me, being in this current generation, child marriage is such a distant thing, right? That happens not in my culture, not near my family, not near my culture, but I did some digging with my family. Turns out my great grandmother, so not far off, was betrothed at the age of 13. So by the age that she was 13, she already had technically a husband, and there was conversations of her moving in and, living with this individual. It wasn't so terrible that the individual was much older, which was great. It was within that age range, but she really didn't have a choice in the matter. And it's so close, right? It's just my great grandmother, which is not far off. And then my grandmother got married when she was 18, and she didn't know who her husband was until the day of her wedding. She didn't even understand, basic sexual health, just anything about it. It was a catch me by surprise type situation. And, still to this day, I think a lot of women struggle with not really having a choice and facing pressure, whether it be on a timeline to get married and have kids by this age, or to find a partner as soon as possible. It all comes down to that idea that you don't really have a choice, and you're being pressured and pushed to do something and make a decision that you shouldn't have to make. You shouldn't decide or be forced into before you before you really reach adulthood.
Thank you. Janelle, or?
Next. So one of the things that I kind of found really interesting in the article was how it was talking about Senator Martha McSally, how she had spoken about when she had become a senator, that in her military base, she had been continuously raped and sexually assaulted by her superiors. And I think it's something that, we're talking about more because of, Vanessa Guillen, but it's something that hasn't been talked about for a long time about, what is happening in, the bases where people who serve us, and protect us, what are the things that they're going through? How does that vary for, people of color, for women specifically, but also for men, not excluding them from the conversation. And why it's so hard to talk about those topics, the taboo around that, the shame that comes, at least, in my family, like Hispanic families, it's very hard to talk about anything, rape, sexual assault, because it's not only, they see it as, you allowed the situation to happen. And, when you're in a position of, you're supposed to be someone who's protecting people, you're supposed to be someone who's strong, the shame might be worse, and a lot of psychological trauma also goes into that. So I definitely thought that it was interesting that, she brought that up, but also that not really anything was done. And we continue to see that. And, that's why it's so important to vote, to be careful who we vote for. What are they doing to make, action that changes the narrative of different people? Because it could be us one day, it can be our daughters, our sons, it could be our family members, or close friends. And I personally wouldn't want that to happen to anyone that I care about. So I definitely think that it really drew attention to the need to vote.
Thank you. Sonia?
What was really insightful with this article is that it goes into the statistics and gives a little description about the current situation with women. And when I was done reading the article, I got a sense that how everything is connected, in the sense that there are more than, I believe it was like 300 million girls that don't have education. So then when they don't have that opportunity to go to school, they can't get a job and they can't provide for themselves. That could lead to them getting married at an earlier age. And what was mind-blowing was that it is all connected. And in order to break those ceilings, you slowly have to break all of those levels. You have to allow girls to get jobs. You have to allow girls to get an education. So then they won't be dependent on getting married at a young age, or they will have a say in their body, or they will have something simple as like voicing their opinion. I feel sometimes we take for granted the small things that make who we are, because we are in a privileged place. Like I can say for myself, like living in America, I was able to get an education, I was able to get internships and jobs, and I recognize that privilege, and I want to use that privilege and my experience to explain to others how it can benefit other women and it can benefit an entire country. Because if you can have two sources of incomes for a household, you're going to be way better off than one source of income. So it's having those conversations that it's important to have, so then you can open minds to other people, specifically men too, because it is kind of a man's world, and allowing them to have a seat at the table and talk to them and be openly honest about the struggles that women have, I would hope that they would gain some perspective and then start making proactive changes within their decision making as well.
Thank you so much. What you all have said is really at the focal point of the Women's Center, is recognizing privilege, understanding intersectionality, having everyone come to the table, men, those who are identified as other genders other than women, or men, non-binary individuals, and really having that discussion of what we're coming to the table with looks very different, and how we can utilize privileges as well as highlight things that are still needed. That's what we want to do. And so I really appreciate you all digging deep and again, sharing really personal stories with us about what compels you to continue fighting for gender equity and having these conversations. So the next couple of questions are going to be geared more for individual people. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about your passion projects and kind of what got you here. So for Sonia, Could you tell us a little bit about your podcast, Wisest Woman? I immediately was attracted to that. What does it mean to be wisest? What are some of the quotables that we can all grow from or utilize in our pursuit to make things equitable?
Oh, thanks for being excited about it. It's growing, so it's very slow. So there's moments where I'm I don't know if this is being successful. Are we getting a lot of people? But yeah, I think the pandemic has a lot of downs, and we've definitely experienced them. But a silver lining would be that it has allowed us to kind of take it slow, not focus so much on work, focus on other things about yourself, people you love. And I took this as an opportunity to work on a passion project. I love listening to podcasts. It's an easy way to get insight and then start your research on other things. I started it with two of my really good friends, Anna Vega, who works at the Women's Center right now, and then Gabby, who's another friend of ours. And we just wanted to start a journey with our listeners, our followers, of how do we get to a point of being wise? And that starts by acknowledging that you're not smart in everything and that you do lack knowledge in certain topics, and it's okay. But if you have that passion, if you want to know, you can know. And what it means to be wise-ish is kind of that, you're on this journey of self-growth, self-improvement. You want to learn more, you want to educate yourself, educate others that may not know certain situation because they are in a privileged standpoint, or they just are very naive or gullible, or they're just in their ways and they don't really have those conversations. So when it comes to being wise, it's just that journey of self-reflecting, self-improvement. We've had guests on the shows, and one of them said something that was really profound that I took for granted, is that you should always align yourself with a group of people that have similar values than you, because it's easier to have those hard conversations about education, about family, about friends. And with that, you start to gain courage to have conversations with other people, or just post something on social media because you and your friends had this conversation and enlightening you on a certain topic. It also gives you a guidance to hard conversations that you always felt traumatized from, or you just didn't want to think about. And you can have those conversations with people around you and people outside in your social network, because it's kind of hard to talk to people right now because of the pandemic. So having a voice on social media can go a long way, and you never know who might need that little glimpse of knowledge that felt alone for a really long time, and now they feel like they're being heard. And I think that's what it is. It's what I hope to gain from this podcast is to show that we're all humans, that it isn't us versus them, it's all of us. We're all in the same boat. We may have gone through different experiences in life, but we felt certain feelings of happiness, sadness, and things like that. And that's the bigger picture of humanity at the end of the day.
Thank you. And someone asked where they can follow Wisest Woman, or where they can find it.
Oh, that's so nice. We're on Spotify, Apple, and Anchor, and we're on Instagram at Wisest Women with an A, pod, P-O-D. But yeah, I'll put it in the comments. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mecca, could you talk to us about your desire to inspire mental wellness and professional prosperity? How can we work to make that happen? So that's been a really great focus in this pandemic, is really kind of understanding where we are with our wellness overall. And some of us maybe a little bit had to take a step back in our professional careers, or are endeavoring to take a step forward despite what's happening right now. So talk to us a little bit about how you got to that as a passion or a mission.
Yeah, sure. Really quick before I do, I just want to say, Wisest Woman, listen to a couple episodes, guys. Recommend. This is not a paid ad. Their Instagram is also great. But yeah, so I think during the pandemic, I've been doing a lot of internal reflection. And while I do find my job meaningful and important to me, I've been really kind of trying to hone in on what am I passionate about. And in that, I've been reflecting on some of my past experiences. I've worked with career and talent development at FIU, and while working there, I learned just in the workplace alone, for a starting point, to give you an example of my starting point, in a workplace alone, there's so many different factors and environments that are affecting our well-being on a daily basis. I mean, you're at a job typically 40 hours a week, and there's so many things, so many connections and people that you're dealing with, that kind of environment is so very important to your overall well-being, and your overall well-being plays directly to how you do your role. So I've been looking into, industrial organizational psychology, which deals with a lot of these factors. But while kind of uncovering this, actually through podcasts, I've been learning that, there's a high expectation on women. As we gain more rights, for example, the right to work, we're still seen as primary child takers or child caregivers. So it's like our plate, people just keep adding more and more food, and you're expected to be so strong that I really feel there's a gap in the mental well-being of women and children. We really do downplay women's pain. You can see there's a lot of articles out there that talk about this post-pregnancy, I believe, where women are not prescribed, adequate pain medication because it's just seen as, oh, she's strong enough, or she's being dramatic. So if that's how people are reacting to our physical pain, so how could people possibly be reacting to our mental pain and our mental struggle? And those expectations can really take a toll on a woman. So I've been really kind of infatuated with this kind of mission and idea, and looking to see how I can get more involved, either be virtual volunteering through NAMI. They have a couple opportunities that are up. I do recommend, if you are looking to volunteer, there's a lot of remote opportunities that are now becoming available, particularly for my marketing majors in social media. But that's really my goal, is no matter where my career takes me, that I can at least fulfill that mission some way, somehow. Maybe not directly through my job, right, my 9 to 5, maybe through a passion project, kind of how Sonia has taken up, or through a volunteer org. And I hope that that's what I can accomplish in the future.
Thank you. And I would venture to say, just by making it a passion, you've already added to the community that can help others. So, making sure that it's not an invisible problem is always really important as well. So thank you for the work that you do. I appreciate it. So Janelle, you're a current student, and you're working to amplify voices of women and vulnerable populations through several different initiatives. I know you personally, so I know how hard you work. Could you talk about experiences that continue to motivate you towards working for gender equity, especially when people talk about how college campuses are predominantly women, and throw out some of those fun facts and tidbits when we have literature that talks about some of the things that Mecca and Sonia have talked about?
Yeah, definitely. So the first piece I would give, to anyone who's looking to have passion projects as a student, is really surround yourself with a group of people who want to accomplish similar passion projects. This worked really well when I was doing my Millennium Fellowship. Consequently, we were all women. So we could see in a lot of each other, helping each other through our passion projects, because when you group together with other students to, accomplish a goal or to help support someone else's goal, and see that same support going back and forth, it really helps when you're doing hard work that, people before you haven't really done, and it's different, and some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to be like, why are you doing that? Or why are you taking those extra steps? You need to rest. Making sure that you are taking care of yourself, but at the same time, you're a woman on a mission. And so when you find other women on a mission, it really motivates you to keep going as a student, because, if you're a full-time student, you're taking at least 4 classes. if you're trying to get into grad school, you know, you're making sure you're impressing your professors. You're making sure that you're doing extracurriculars. And apart from that, you have your own, you know, projects that you want to do, and it's difficult. But, you know, taking the steps to involve yourself in extracurriculars that are important to you. So I know before I said that I was one of the board directors for the Panther Community Action Board. A lot of the things that we've been doing over the summer is, you know, training on developing community partnerships, which is super important to me. I believe we had Madison actually at one of our workshops, which was giving back during COVID, and, you know, just surrounding yourself with people that are completing what their current mission is, also like asking for help. I know Yenny, I always show up to her office and just be like, Yenny, this is what I'm doing now. And she, you know, gives me advice, or she gives me, you know, support. So also as a student, it's important to ask for help, which is a lesson that I learned too late in life, I think, and I'm only 21. So definitely, Nashira knows too, I don't like to ask for help, but I've had to do it, and I have to get used to it. And as a student, you know, the resources are there. So when you're trying to do all these things, whether it be, you know, doing vote by mail campaigns, or working with the senator, doing other things, making sure that you ask for help, you build a support system, that you do everything intentionally. Don't do something just to put it on a resume, because it's not worth it. It's really not. No matter how prestigious it is, if it doesn't mean something to you, you're going to be miserable, and it's really going to undervalue your mission. And you're not going to want to do it anymore. So you're going to kill your passion. You're going to kill your joy. So as a student, you know, be intentional about the things that you're getting involved in. Don't deny yourself time for your passion projects, even though, you know, you have class. Like, set time apart. I have a passion planner also, which I got from the Women's Center. So it really like blocks schedules, everything by time. So scheduling your breaks, because they're important too. Don't work during your vacation time. Nashira knows I also struggle with that. So, you know, really being intentional about the work that you're doing, and making sure that you're helping others as well, because if you're not giving back, you're not doing anything. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but I hope it did.
Yeah, it did. Thank you so much, Janelle. I really appreciate it. So the Women's Center is always a resource. Just want to point that out. You know, I'm not afraid of a shameless plug. So Madison, as an alum, you, looking at your bio, you're in varied experiences with the community, from the music and art scene to your internships and now your job. What are some ways that you see students or members of the university community getting involved in ways that are authentic to themselves?
So I love this question, because I mean, you know, our generation really has the capacity to, I don't want to say capitalize, but kind of do whatever is their passion project, and being able to sort of monetize it for fundraising. That's what I see every day. Hi, I have a salon and I'm looking to create an event. What is it that you guys need? Or hi, I work at a school. Or hey, I make masks. Or hey, I'm a hair braider and I would love to come in and donate my services. But I think one of the most important things before you start any of these initiatives is to let go of your ego, and to remember that you really are in this place to serve. I have people who, man, I know they're trying to help, but it just annoys me how people will just show up and not ask us what it is that we need. Like I've had to sift through like trash bags of like cookingware with a dirty bath mat. And it's like, I know everyone's trying to help, but at the same time, you have to really make sure you're not doing this in service of, well, I went off to a women's shelter today and, you know, I'm, you know, Miss Do-Gooder or whatever. But really making sure, you know, you're integrating yourself in this environment, in this community, and speaking with the people who live this experience or who work in it every day. So, yeah.
Thank you, Madison. That is awesome. I think, you know, I've worked with community engagement for so long. It's like sending potatoes to Idaho, right? Like, I don't think they need potatoes. So,
yes, you get me.
Yes. So let's ask the community what they need and do our best to provide what they need. And don't get upset when it is money. Sometimes the community agencies need fundraising and they need money in order to conduct what they need on a structural level. So I appreciate that. Yes.
So sorry, I want to just say something really quick because Jennifer, a while back, while Mecca was talking, she said sometimes it's hard for people to talk about certain topics because either they feel uncomfortable or they had a bad experience in the past, making it hard to talk about it. Plus, those people are afraid to be judged for their experiences or some mistakes they had made. I was a a caseworker for victims of trauma, and following up on Madison, a lot of times we want to help the community and we ask people about their story. And we need to be there just to help. People don't need to tell us their story for us to serve. And we have to be mindful when we do any sort of community, we want to be involved in the community, that we are doing because we're passionate, but that we are not trying to self-serve in a manner that is harmful without indirectly to the community. So the fact that you guys are so young and you already realize that, it's amazing to me.
I told you I was going to be great. I knew it. I knew it. So, Florencia, thank you so much. I think what we'll do is we'll see if there's any questions so that we can answer those. And I do have a parting question, but I just want to make sure that we get to all of them. Very much the panelists have talked about, working. Women are often, we need a story from a woman, right? So if they need something, then we need something back. So challenge that process of exchange. Do you actually, as Florencia said, need to hear a story from this person when you can't help in that way? What do how you can help should be equitable to the person, or you should just do it selflessly instead of selfishly. Florencia, do you have questions?
I do. I have comments because I wanted to make sure. Well, first of all, want to come back to work. You're all so amazing and so grounded and so wise already, although I did go and follow the podcast. But I am really I'm not surprised, but I'm just very impressed. And I'm sure that I speak for all 39 participants that this has been an amazing conversation. I just wanted to make sure I get some of the comments in the chat because you might have some amazing advice to share. I have Jennifer is asking, saying, I would like to help make a difference, but I don't know where to start. How do you start when you know in your heart you want to serve? Like, what do you do? What's just a quick first thing that one can do? And it's up for grabs. Anybody who wants to share.
Yeah, definitely. I can share a little bit. So actually what I did to kind of start getting started is I honestly just walked to Global Learning and was like, I need some help. Like, Yenny can tell you, I literally just showed up and I was like, I need some help. I know that I want to do something, but I don't know how. So FIU has a lot of, especially women who are doing a lot of the work or know the opportunities that are out there, and it's hard for us to kind of see them. So whether it's even signing up for, the GL newsletter or for the FIU and DC newsletter or the Women's Center newsletter, that always has opportunities for either volunteering, for getting involved in clubs, as well as like seeing someone, like going to different events or like, and staying and like being like, hey, can I talk to you for a second to see like how I can get started? Like, it doesn't only help your networking, but it also gives you opportunities. And let's say that, Nashira sees an opportunity and she remembers that we had a conversation, she's going to send it my way, because she knows who I am. She knows what I'm trying to accomplish. So having those conversations with people who are older than you are in, departments that really want to help you, and not being scared, like just being shamelessly like, I have no experience. I just want to help. How can I do it? And they'll send you opportunities, or actively looking for the opportunities, because a lot of times we don't find the opportunities because, let's be real, we have a lot of things to do and we want to nap, we want to watch that show, and you really have to like actively look for it, because a lot of times, the opportunities are there, but no one's taking them. So I think that's one of the ways I would say.
Thank you, Janelle. Also, well, thank you for the shout out to Women's Center Global Learning. And that's true. I think sometimes we get caught up on like, how do we ask when we don't know? And we don't know what we don't know, right? So just going and showing up, and in these times, just reaching out via email, online. There are a lot of really committed people at FIU that want, and that I know I'm speaking for Nashira because I talked to Nashira offline, that we are so inspired, and that seeing young people invested in their communities and bringing about change is what keeps us going. So for sure, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else wants to share a piece of advice, or do I move on to the next question? I'm looking at my top line.
From a person who's graduated, like a non-student perspective, right, when you may not be able to walk right through the really helpful doors that you have at FIU, there's a lot of different websites. I think the one I use a lot is Volunteer Broward, I believe that's what it is, where they kind of, or volunteer.org, I'll put it in chat, but they do a really good job of putting all kind of opportunities into one database for volunteers. And what's great is they have different things pieced out by, let's say, your passion, or like a topic, whether it's crisis intervention, women's rights, children and families. That could just be a good point just to explore and see, okay, what gets me really kind of excited to go and help? What kind of touches my soul, touches my heart? Maybe even just a little bit. And you just go and take a chance, reach out and say, hey, I'm looking to volunteer, I'm looking to help, what can I do, if anything?
Picking back off of what Mecca said, it honestly is one of those things where you jump in, and an easy thing to do is look up local organizations in Miami, and then going through them, calling them or emailing them, going on social media to see if they have any volunteer opportunities. And see if you can bring a friend, because I know sometimes it is very daunting to just go by yourself because you aren't aware of the environment, or that you're uncomfortable. But bring a friend and go out there and see, because you need a starting point. And for a lot of us, you don't know what your passion is, and that's okay. But you just need to just jump in, and then from there you'll see what you like, what you don't like. You'll meet people that will help guide you through that process. So what Mecca said as well, and Janelle.
Also, I wanted to say too, I love this panel so much. Like, we're all in agreement with everything. Like, I think I kind of struggle with letting the work debilitate me. Like, I jumped into everything in college, and it took me a while to find out what it is that really drives my soul and understand like what I think my purpose is rooted in, and that has to do with my identity as a woman and taking a lot of pride in that. But listen, you're not going to graduate from college having everything figured out. I just always want to like have that, say it out loud, because I really think a lot of us think we're going to go into college, we're going to have everything figured out, we're going to get a 9-to-5 job, and our life is just everything will follow through just like that. But yeah, I always just want to let everybody know you're not alone if you all are confused at this point.
I think we have time for one more question. We have a couple, but
Do you pick one out, Flor?
or we do like the two, but super quick.
Because I have, and I think that's a really interesting one. It's, yeah, somehow a question about working with younger, with children and young adults, and how do we kind of bring these topics to this younger generation, someone who's an education major and works with middle and high school students. Like, what are some suggestions? Because some of the issues that we're seeing in the world today, we have a hard time processing them and getting to a place where we can take action. How do we do that with a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old? Like, do you have any experiences really quickly to share? I know we have we're almost out of time, so just kind of parting thoughts, but you're all so good, so I want to get as much as I can from you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Janelle.
Okay, I can talk. I have a lot of younger cousins. I'm the oldest of all of my cousins. So one of the ways that I always kind of do it is like see which of the cousins I'm going with and build like personal connections with them, as well as a lot of the time they get in a bad mood when you like act like they don't know, like aren't smart enough to understand. So like educating them on the topic and not like just shutting them off when it comes to that. So, and integrating into what their identity is. So if they're, you know, if you want them to like learn about volunteer research, like also educate them on like what are we volunteering for? Why is it important? How does it affect our community? And, you know, making those connections with them and allowing space for questions as well is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, and I just think of it as supporting what they're already doing at home and in school. So it doesn't have to be this holistic, I'm going to teach you everything about the reproduction system. That's too much. But, you know, if you're teaching them, you know, valuing or loving your body, that can be, you know, look very different. And it doesn't have to be genderized. It can be, you know, what is it valuing your body and loving your body mean for everyone? And so I have a 4-year-old, so we're really trying to tackle race relations right now. And that's tough for a 4-year-old, like, but understanding differences is not so tough. And so really going from there into moving into appreciating, like, yes, you and your cousin are different, but don't you love him? And really kind of talking about that. So that's my 2 cents from like a 4-year-old perspective.
Well, thank you. I also 4-year-old talking about the same thing. So I know the struggle, it could be real, but it's, I appreciate all of you and your comments, but Madison just said something recently, like we're on this together, and that feeling of sisterhood or community, like it's what keeps people going, really.
It's how we survive.
Yeah, exactly. No, really, it is. So thank you for the reminder. Florencia, I'm trying to make sure we are respectful of people's times. I have so many questions. I don't know if we might be able to at least send the transcripts of the chat to the participants, because I see really good links to, somebody's talking about the Poll Hero Project, which is to get young people to help during the elections, because our older generation that usually does this kind of volunteering, they're staying home because of the pandemic, so youth might have an opportunity to step in. So I want to make sure that I share those if people are interested. I don't know if that's something that we could do. And also tons of questions about impasse and credits that I don't have the answer to, but I'll make sure to circle back on that. Am I missing anything else before we say goodbye to this amazing group, 38 people who joined today? So exciting. Anything else, Flor, that I'm missing, apart from thank you to the speakers, and thank you, Nashira, as usual, for being our partner.
Right, like what a way to kick off. You know, we were like sort of nervous. This again, like the first time we do it after 11 years that we do it online, and what a first session. So we are like so thankful. Keep going every Tuesday. Nashira will keep tapping on you. Like, you're doing wonderful work, and you know, we're glad we're all in this together. Like you guys been saying. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you all so much. October 5th is the last day to register to vote. So if you're not registered or you need to change your address, do it before then. If you want to vote by mail, you can also walk that ballot in. But the first day to make a difference is today. So if you are ready to get out and make a difference in the community, just like the women that you've seen that I'm inspired by and I continue to be inspired by at the Women's Center, today is that day. And so we can help you. Go Global can help you. Go Global FIU, sorry, can help you. And any number of resources on campus can help you. And so we're just really enthused and excited. Thank you so much, Madison, Mecca, Sonia, and Janelle. You all have made my week. I'm not even talking about my day. My week is made being a part of this panel with you. I'm in awe and I'm inspired. Just remember to hire me when I need it. So.
Remember to hire us, Nashira, us. All of us.
Us.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, this was
Thank
awesome.
you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
And it's so good to see you guys, the students, everyone that joined. Is so good to see you. We miss you.
We do,
So,
yes.
yes.
All right.